So, you want to be a real estate investor, but where do you start? How do you know what information and sources to trust? That's where I come in. I'm Jonny Cattani, and this is the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. Hey guys, real quick, before we start, go to investwithcattani.com and download my free ebook, Is Commercial Real Estate Recession Proof? Now to today's show. What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jonny Cattani, and I am joined today by Rich Fettke. Rich is the author of The Wise Investor, a modern parable about creating financial freedom and living your best life. He's a licensed real estate broker, active investor, and co-founder of realwealth.com, a real estate investment group that helps its 60,000 plus members improve their financial intelligence, secure passive income from quality investment properties, and obtain financial freedom. He's also the author of Extreme Success and the audio program Momentum. A pioneer in the field of business and personal coaching, Rich is a former vice president of the International Coach Federation and holds one of the ICF's first master certified coach credentials. Rich's work has been featured on TV, radio, and in print, including USA Today, Entrepreneur Magazine, and the Wall Street Journal. A passionate adventure athlete, Rich lives in Malibu, California with his wife, Kathy, where they invest, work, and play together. Rich, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here. Ready to go.
Absolutely. Very excited. And if you're new to the commercial real estate space, which I know a lot of my listeners are, be very excited for this because the Fettkes are a household name in this industry. So we're very, very grateful to have one of the two on. And I know Kathy is actually scheduled here in the near future. So
great.
We'll have them both. But again, welcome. We're very, very grateful to have you. But as we do with all of our investors, let's go to the beginning. How did you start? What brought you into this world? And kind of take it from there.
Oh, man. I mean, when it comes to real estate investing, that was out of desperation. I had an oncologist tell me I had 6 months to live. I had melanoma and they thought it had spread to my liver. And so I came home, told Kathy, doctor just told me I have 6 months to live. We had a 3-year-old daughter, a 10-year-old daughter. Kathy was a stay-at-home mom. So she was freaking out. And she had this small radio show in San Francisco, more of a hobby radio show on coaching and helping people realize their dreams and be more effective. And she's like, I got to figure out a way to make money if Rich dies. And so she started to interview people who are financially successful, and they happen to be real estate investors. So one of them was a mortgage broker, and he taught Kathy about how to invest. And so then we found out, actually, thankfully, the doctor's diagnosis was wrong, that melanoma had not spread to my liver. So I just had to have some surgeries. And after I was healed, Kathy and I started to invest together. And we started to buy properties, mostly out of state. And we started to do well with that. And we had some friends and family say, how are you doing this? We want to learn. So Kathy and I said, let's form a group of investors. We thought it would be maybe 100 or 200 people. And today, 18 years later, that was 2003, 18 years later, our group, Real Wealth, is now over 63,000 members that we've helped create financial freedom.
Wow. That's an incredible story, and so grateful, of course, that was a misdiagnosis. Did you have to go get a second opinion, or did they come back and say,
oh man, it was second and third and fourth. Yeah. So in that, basically they had done a CT scan and that showed 4 masses on my liver. So they scheduled me for an ultrasound, and that was with another specialist. And that was several weeks later. And then that came back and showed 4 masses on my liver. And then they said, okay, we have to schedule you for a PET scan, which is the most advanced scan for cancer. And that was a few weeks later, waiting in line to get to that test. So it was in that 2 to 3 month period of not knowing, of tears and frustration and despair. And I remember I was bouncing on the trampoline with my little daughter. She's 3 years old. And we were just laughing and having fun and rolling around. Then all of a sudden I just had this wave of realizing I wouldn't see her grow up and I might not see her get married, and just broke down in tears. It was a brutal time. It was, it's kind of PTSD, even though it only was a few months. It's just the impact of that, of thinking that you're going to be gone, is really powerful. It really had me really wake up. And so it has every day now. I'm grateful. every day is a blessing is that even though it's been, 20 years since that happened, it's still very grateful to be alive.
Wow. That's incredible. And thank you for sharing that. And we're very, very grateful that you are still with us, because without it, I know that the industry would not have some of the top coaching that we now have. So
Thank
very,
you.
very grateful.
Thank you.
So let's kind of get into some of that. Were you a coach then as well? You both have kind of had that background coming into this. Is that why it's kind of been so natural for you guys to coach this?
Yeah. Yes, I was a coach. I got in the industry very early in 1995 and became the president of the U.S. Coaching Association, and then we merged with the International Coach Federation. So then I was vice president of that. So very, very influential in the early days of coaching, forming it, coming up with the certifications and the standards and how it works and what does accreditation look like and all. So it's just looking at the coaching industry today and how many hundreds of thousands of coaches and how it's a popular thing. I used to tell people I was a coach and they'd say, what sport back then, So I'm just thrilled with where the coaching industry is now. And we've brought that coaching into our business a lot and into our investment counselor sessions. There's a lot of coaching in that. So what we do at Real Wealth is we mostly help people get into single family, like 1 to 4 unit properties around the country. We have property teams around the country that we refer to. We have very clear standards of what the properties must be like. And then I'm a licensed broker, so I can refer people to other brokers who, help them put them in an investment property. So that's part of the business that we've done for so many years. And then we also syndicate, and mostly residential land development is our main focus with syndicating.
Awesome. Wow, that's very cool. I like that. So you guys are kind of using, is it the BRRRR strategy, or what's kind of the strategy there that you're getting people started?
It's a little different. So it's most of the people who come to Real Wealth are usually busy working professionals. They're the Henrys, right? The high earners, not rich yet people. So it's like they are making a good amount of money, but they just don't know where to put it. They're max out their 401k. They're investing in the stock market. Maybe they do a little crypto, but it's more of they're not controlling their assets, if you will. We know that. Right. So a lot of people come over and just we simplify the process for them. So the property teams, they're the ones who go out and get the wholesale deals. They get the foreclosures, or they work with a builder to do new builds, and then they have property management in place. And so it's kind of like a turnkey model. We don't like to use the term turnkey because it's so overused in this industry. People don't often get a real turnkey property. It's like you turn the key and the lock falls out, in some of these rehabs. So that's why I was saying, and we have a standard of what these property teams have to have available for our members to refer to them. So we don't get involved in that. We're mostly where we educate, we support, we teach people how to do it, and then we refer them to brokers in emerging markets.
Awesome. I love that. What a great strategy. And, I did an episode not too far back, hasn't come out yet, but with Matt Faircloth, and we were talking about,
Matt.
Yeah, great guy. If we could start over, and this is the strategy that I would use if I started over, is this 1 to 4 units, get in there, obviously live in one, rent out the others.
Yeah.
And that. So is that what you guys started in when you were learning back 18 years ago and have just kept with that? Or what are some of the different strategies that you found that have really led you to keeping with this one?
Yeah. When we got started, we were like early house hackers before that was a term. Basically, Kathy's dad had to do a 1031 exchange. Some of his partners in the peninsula had sold a small apartment building and didn't even let him know last minute and said, hey, we sold this. And he was going to pay some massive taxes on it. So he called his kids and said, hey, I need to do a 1031 exchange, go out and find a property for me. I have to move this money into something, and I don't have many days left. He was getting down to the wire. So Kathy, just being who Kathy is, she just started scrambling, went out there. She drove all over the neighborhood. She was looking at listings, and she found this property that became the first property. We got married in 97 and moved into this property in 97, thanks to Kathy's dad. And basically just then bought the house from him. And it was this big, it was like 4,200 square feet. And we were able to separate the lower level into 2 units with full bathrooms, kitchens, and all that. And we even, the master bedroom had its own outdoor entrance. So we blocked that off from the rest of the house and turned that into another unit. So we had basically 3 different tenants living in this one big house that wasn't designed to be a quad, so it worked out great. And that was kind of our first venture into that. And then that house appreciated about 100,000. That was in 97. So the market then was ticking up. So every year it was going up 150,000 in value in the Bay Area of San Francisco. So we did a cash out refi, and that's what we used to initially get those properties in the Dallas area. We went out and bought 6 investment properties there.
Wow. That's awesome. So just real quick, what are some of the markets that you guys are in and continue to work in?
Yeah, I mean, it's changing. We're always looking at, where the people are flowing and where companies are going. We have property teams in the Dallas area in Texas. We have 4 different property teams in Florida, from north to south to east to west. That's obviously been a crazy hot market. Everything from Ohio to Pennsylvania. We're in North Carolina, South Carolina. It seems, basically kind of like that Southeast seems to be the best cash flow, really, where the numbers work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love that you guys were in Dallas. Man, I can't imagine the growth you guys have been a part of in Dallas, because
unbelievable.
Talking to some of the operators, it wasn't even until like the last, maybe 5, 8, maybe 10 years that people really started to diverge and make DFW what it is, as we know it now.
Huge,
but
yeah.
It wasn't like that before. It was like maybe 3% growth is what I've been told before.
It's all those Californians, they're moving out.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, I can obviously tell, obviously you wrote the book, The Wise Investor. You guys are obviously huge proponents of, kind of that work-life balance and creating that wealth and having that balance. So let's kind of get into that, kind of talk about, where the mindset was in writing the book and what people can expect from it and learn from it.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's our company name, Real Wealth, has a meaning to us because we define it's not just about wealth and money. It's about real wealth. And we define that as having the money, but also the freedom to live life on your own terms. So it's being able to do what you want, when you want, with the people you want to be with, and really enjoying every moment. That's our huge focus at Real Wealth. It's what we're all about. So the Wise Investor book, it was interesting. I wrote my first book, and this is my second book, 20 years ago. It was in 2002. I had a book deal with Simon & Schuster. This was right about the time of that diagnosis. I was coaching a lot. I was giving keynote speeches. So I felt like I was top of my game. And I was had this goal and vision of where I wanted to go. And then that diagnosis just kicked me in the stomach, basically. So with Real Wealth, that first book, my coach, I have my own coach who I talk to every Friday. And he had read my first book. So he's always nudging me over the past probably 6 or 7 years. When's your next book going to come out? And I'm like, oh, I wrote my book. I'm done. But what we started to do with Real Wealth is we started to use story branding from Don Miller, the whole, kind of telling the story of your customers, the hero in the story, and your brand is basically the guide. And so I got so into that with Real Wealth and being the guide and helping people. And then that whole hero's journey thing and Joseph Campbell and learning about it, I was just I mentioned one day to my coach, I'm like, if I was to write a book, I'd probably want to write a parable. I'd like to write a story. And then that is exactly what The Wise Investor is. It's a modern parable. It tells a story of a 40-something guy he's a husband, he's a father, he's a hard worker, he's a coder, he works in a cubicle, but he has no time for his life, no time for his health, his fitness, his kids. So he meets this wise investor, a mentor, who is a businessman, who's an investor, and is just an overall, successful, cool guy. I kind of wrote the story as he's my future self. He's who I'd like to become, this main mentor in it. And so it was really inspiring writing the story, thinking about, okay, what would my future self do here? What would he say? How would he guide? How would he coach? How would he mentor? And so it's a really heartfelt story. I'm super happy with the way it turned out. It just has exciting scenes, and it's definitely not I mean, I love parables. I love audiobooks. So I just figured I'd write something that I would love.
Absolutely. I love that. That's awesome. Definitely want to check it out. And then did you narrate it as well for the audiobook?
I did. That was an interesting challenge. So I narrated my first book, which is a nonfiction book called Extreme Success. And this one was different because the Wise Investor has 10 different characters in it, ranging from kids to women to older men to, to the jerk boss to the, everything. So it was a very interesting and challenging goal. I actually went online and took a couple of courses on voice acting and everything. So hopefully it came out good.
I was just going to say, that sounds almost like need to take an acting class before you.
It was, it took some practice, but, I've played, a few people have listened to it and getting good feedback so far. So we'll see what the world thinks.
Awesome. I love that. And you mentioned it's right up there, right? Number 2 on some of the.
Yeah. This for the last over a week, it's been number 2 or number 3 on like 4 different bestseller lists on Amazon. And Real Estate Investments is number 2. And Business and Motivation, it's number 3. So I'm really happy about that. The ones that are beating it out as number 1 are the 99-cent Kindle books. I'm like, oh, I can't lower it to 99 cents.
Yeah, of course. I love that. That's awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm really stoked on it.
Yeah, absolutely stoked for you. So what advice, would you have for someone, let's say in the main character's book? Actually, I just went to a networking event and it was mostly for fix and flips, but I like to go to those because I like to find the people who, ultimately what I did find is someone who wants that passive, knows that real wealth is created by, investing in assets that make money for you. He's got 3 jobs, so he knows what he needs to do, but he doesn't know how to do it. So, let's kind of get some tips and strategy for getting started with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, without giving too much away, spoiler alert, but the basics, it's what we know as investors, but it's what a lot of people don't know. We don't get the financial education in school. So a lot of it's woven in that way. So a lot of these principles, stories, but basically it starts off with a mentor just saying, I want you to write all your expenses down. How much, do you know how much you're spending on a monthly basis? And of course, the characters, he's making over 6 figures, but he has no idea how much he's spending. And so that's one of his assignments. And he comes back to his mentor and says, okay, I've written everything down. And he's kind of blown away. Ryan Brooks is the main character in it. And so Ryan is blown away at where all this money's going. He's just blown, it's crazy. So then the mentor gives him the challenge of, I want you to come back and let me know how you could reduce those expenses by 20%. And he thinks it's impossible. It's like, I can't do that. But over time, he starts to learn, he starts to really take a hard look. And so that's one of the main things is just looking. And that's basically, this story is woven in from so many of the stories of members of Real Wealth in our network, and interviewing them on our podcast and what we do, Real Wealth Stories, and seeing people go through this, the aha of, oh man, I thought I didn't have any money to invest, but I actually could have a lot of money to invest if I start cleaning up my spending. So that's one. Then he goes just into he compares real estate to stocks, to gold, to all these different investment things. And he brings it right up and he kind of lays out the power of leverage and how that can multiply your returns and compounding interest. So some of those things that, as investors, we know, and sometimes it's like, I just think about books like The Alchemist or even the Bible. It's like how many people will reread that just to keep putting the information in. Zig Ziglar once said, people say that motivation doesn't last, but neither does bathing. And that's why we recommend it on a regular basis, right? So it's the same thing with something like this. It's like, hearing it over and over, but also saying, am I living that? How am I living that? How can am I really on track with what I'm spending? And am I acquiring the assets that I should be? And what's my game plan for the long run? Those are some of the big ones. And then he goes into other things. He goes into, the mentor really helps him get clarity about what does his best life look like, what I've noticed in coaching is a lot of people don't stop to really look at what does their best life look like? Where do they want to be in 5, 10, 20 years? Like with real good clarity, and where are they now? So he goes in and uses a lot of the tools that I've used as a coach, helping people assess the 10 major areas of their life, helping people meet their future self. So there's this guided visualization in the book and also on the audiobook. And then also in the back of the book, there's these resource thing where you can go to a website, and then there's this future self visualization that I recorded. So people go through that. So things like that. Yeah. It's kind of a balance between the investing side of things and the learning about ways to profit from rental properties. And then going beyond that from syndicating and multifamily and apartment, from self-storage and everything, mobile home parks. goes into all those different asset classes.
Awesome. I love that. That's great. And I know one thing that people struggle with certainly is that sort of finance side of things, right? We don't have the education, like you mentioned. People, just spend, I don't really think, I'm sure you can say that most people probably don't know where they're spending and what they're spending on. They just kind of slide their card, pay for it and whatever. So what are some, I guess maybe like one or two specific examples where you see people spending the most money that they could probably cut back and pay attention to it, and maybe give themselves some more money to invest with?
I mean, I would say probably the biggest one is a car. Honestly, it's like, sometimes we don't want to hear that, but it's like the car lease or the car loan or something like that. Ryan in the story is driving a BMW and he doesn't really need it. He even admits to himself he's driving it more to look cool, right? But by selling that and just getting a used car, he just basically uses it to get to work. He's all of a sudden $500 a month that he's gets to put aside to build up for investing. So that's one. They have a boat. I see people with toys. You know what I mean? They're buying the toys that are depreciating assets, and it's you just got to balance it out. What the mentor John says to Ryan, and it is just like you got to really take a look at an asset is anything that's going to bring you money or happiness or improve your health. And a liability is the opposite of that. It's something that's going to detract from your money or your health or your happiness. So if there's something that you really want and it really brings happiness to you and it's really worth the money, even though it might be depreciating a little, it's more about looking at what are those things that you don't really need right now? What are the things that you could just cut out and that maybe you get later when you have the cash flow to cover them? But focus on the cash flow addiction becomes strong and positive.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very, very good perspective. Because again, and I'm kind of surrounded by here in in Utah, obviously a ton of outdoor stuff to do.
Yeah.
Everybody loves toys, and don't get me wrong, I love them too. But, I've also been driving the same truck for 11 years now, and of course I want a new truck. I've been building my dream truck in my head for like 3 years. I know what I want, but it's not time yet, so it's those things.
You want financial freedom more.
Correct. 1000%. I want my passive income to pay for my truck 100 times before, I buy it. And so that's a really, really awesome thing to say, because, as cliche as it is, if, what's the old saying, if you live 5 years like nobody else will, you can live the rest of your life like nobody else can.
Yeah, I love that.
I butchered that a little bit.
No, that's good.
But though, you cut those things back, right? Sell the stuff you don't need yet, and then those things will come back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Super cool.
Awesome. I love that. So any other, things just starting out? So we kind of touched on expenses, setting those up. What are some other things that people, who are starting to want to get on this path can pay attention to and maybe make some changes? I
mean, what we hear over and over, but I'll repeat it. It's learning, right? It's like one of the best things you can do is get obsessed with learning. I'm just amazed at how much work someone will put in. They'll take their years of experience and knowledge and they'll put it all into a book, spend hundreds, sometimes thousands of hours editing it, making it incredible. And then they charge $20 for it. I mean, so it's an amazing time now. There's so much at our fingertips and accessible for learning. So I think that's the number one, is just learn. And then the second most important thing that is huge is just getting that first investment. If you haven't done that, that is the game changer. That's what I've seen at Real Wealth when people finally, it's like they're waiting for it. They're thinking about it. They're like, they get all the gremlins saying what's going to go wrong, and all their friends and family saying, well, I know someone who lost money doing that and all. But once you get that first investment property, something happens. There's a shift in your mind. And then the second one's easier, and the third one, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm an investor. I know what's going on. So I think that's a huge one.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. The art of the first deal, as they say. And
It's
you get the
huge.
bug, man. It is so, so true. You get that bug, and it's hard. It's, it's not hard to stop because you know what's on the other side. And that's ultimately that freedom and that real legacy wealth that we're all after. So what would you say is kind of the biggest thing that really keeps people on the sideline? Is it mindset? Is it, what are the things that really hold people back from really
Mm.
doing that first deal?
I mean, I like to call it the gremlin, the inner gremlin. It's like, it's that little voice. It's that itty bitty shitty committee inside our head. It's just saying, what about this? And, it's like we, as humans, we have this built-in negativity bias, and we've had it for 50,000 years as we've evolved, and it's kept us safe from what was going to attack us and everything. But today we don't have those same fears and concerns, but we still have this built-in approach of like looking for the problems. So that gremlin is always looking for what's going to go wrong. It's trying to protect us. It's doing its best job to protect us. But so that there's this process, I think, and this is what I've done a lot with my coaching clients. And I even took coaching clients out in the past. I would take them out rappelling, rock climbing, skydiving, to have these breakthrough moments. And of course, the mentors into adventure sports, and he does this with the mentoree. he scares them and shocks them and gets them to wake up and realize some things. But I think like that inner gremlin, it's really not our enemy. I think really just having that conversation and just checking in, and when it's in the dark, it's really powerful, that inner gremlin. But when you shine a light on it, it loses power. So it's something about just I just like to close my eyes and just say, okay, I'm feeling some adrenaline. I'm feeling some fear, feeling some resistance. What do you need? What do you need, Mr. Gremlin? What are you afraid of right now? What are you trying to protect me from? And a lot of times you'll get an answer. It's that subconscious mind will say, this is what I need. And sometimes it's to learn something. Sometimes it's to talk to someone else. Sometimes to talk to your mentor, whatever it might be, or what do you need to put in place? And so I think that's the best way, is to not fight or ignore the fear or the gremlin. Just kind of go in and ask it what it needs, and you can kind of tame it, kind of work with it.
Absolutely. Wow. That's incredible insight. Thank you for sharing that, because it's so true. And the more that you step in and face it and live with it and face each fear, the easier it gets to understand that that's, the process in order to do so. And then it just kind of becomes second nature. And then next thing you know, you're not really scared of anything.
Yeah. You get stronger, and knowing that you're going to run into obstacles, something's going to go wrong. If you're an investor, that's part of what investing's all about, right? Sometimes you gain, sometimes you lose, but it's like or sometimes you gain, sometimes you learn, right? It's the old saying goes. So I think that is the biggest one. Fear holds us back and makes us procrastinate. And it disguises itself in all these different ways. We justify stuff. We say, well, that's not important to work on right now, but it's really, so being in touch with what that fear is. And it's kind of like this balance between really getting clear on what do you want, which I think a lot of people don't stop to really think about that. That's why I love about that future self visualization, because you actually get to go into the future and meet your future self and actually talk with your future self and see where they're living and everything. But then you can come back, and then that gremlin comes up and says, yeah, that's a nice dream, but what about this? So you get to kind of balance the two. Really powerful process.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that I've noticed within myself, right, is I knew what I wanted to do, but in order to get there, we have to put systems and processes and things in place, change our mindset. And so often we don't actually realize what it is we want, right? You're like, oh, I want financial freedom. We're like, okay, but why? What does that mean to you? What does that look like? And it's different for everyone. And, like what I want is different from what you want. So it's important to break it down to your specific, exactly what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Really important. And getting clear on like, where are you now? You know, the mentor and the wise investor, he has Ryan fill out this life wheel. It's got 10 major areas of his life. And he asks them to rate those areas between a 0, like it sucks and couldn't get any worse, or a 10, and that's like couldn't get any better. And so he goes around and he rates his career and health, and he spirituality and his relationship and romance and his fun, all these things. So it's like you get this snapshot and you look at this wheel and you say, whoa, wow, okay, I've been putting a lot of emphasis on career and that's doing really well, but my friends is like a 2, you know. But if you don't take care of those things, all of a sudden it's like it's going to be a bumpy ride, basically.
Absolutely. Wow, that's awesome. Definitely excited to check out the book, and I've appreciated you giving little snippets and insights. And is it just on Amazon, easy to find?
Yeah, it's on all major bookstores. Robert Kiyosaki wrote the foreword for it, which I was honored.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I'm published through the Rich Dad Advisors Press, under my own imprint. It's called Highline Press, and yeah, so it's out there on Amazon and Target, Walmart, all those. You know, yeah, pretty stoked on that.
Awesome. Yeah, he's definitely one person who he's on my Dream 100, and ultimately I'd love to one day have him as a guest. So that's awesome. Congrats on that.
Awesome.
Well, we are kind of coming to time here, but I do have 5 questions that I ask all of my guests. It's the final 5.
All right.
So the first question is, what's the best advice you've gotten from a mentor?
Ooh. Man, it's so simple, but the mentor would be my dad. And it was just simple: live with integrity. So my dad was always about do the right thing, be an integrous person, and he just went into what that meant. So just simple, 3 words.
I love that. That's awesome. My grandfather used to always tell me, a man is only as good as his word.
Yeah.
Never forgotten that. What is it about your career that makes you feel like you're fulfilling your why?
Ooh, that's a great question. My why is helping people be the best versions of themselves. And it has been for the last 25 years. I owned a health club before I moved out to California. And so just helping people with their physical was awesome. And then when I got into coaching and saw that I could help people shape their lives and become the best version of themselves, that really gets me going. So that's it. So I love that, being able to do that with real wealth and help people financially, but with that message about being able to live life on your own terms and that fulfilling life and everything. It's a cool means to, people come in because they want to make more money and they get that, but also to be able to help people go like, oh, wow, I can live with more fulfillment. I can be in better shape. I can be a better husband. I can be a better wife, all that good stuff, better parent.
Gosh, that's so awesome. Yeah, that's one thing that I've noticed, is just becoming a better person. And when you focus on that, the other stuff just comes.
Yeah, when we get better, everything gets better. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild for sure. I love that. What's your favorite non-real estate or investment related book?
Non-real estate. There's a bunch of books I read a lot.
I love it.
Oh man.
You have like 2 or 3 that come to mind?
Yeah, 2 to 3 to come to mind. Let me do that.
Perfect.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People was huge. I read that, many, many years ago, and I always come back, especially seek first to understand, then to be understood. That's a big one. As a husband, The Way of the Superior Man by David Dado is fantastic. And I wrapped a lot of those lessons into the story of the wise investor, about him learning to be a better husband, to be able to show up as a better partner. So yeah, The Way of the Superior Man taught me a lot about, just how to show up as an acknowledging better husband. I need lessons in that too. It's another thing we're not taught in school. So that's a big one. And then I would say, currently the Psychology of Money was really good book. And it's just like, it's not really an investing book. It's more about how we see money and how you got to be careful of envy and be careful of the overspend, but to really see money as a tool So yeah, I think that's a great one too. So those are
Awesome.
my biggies.
I love it. Thanks for sharing those. All incredible books. Have not read The Way of the Superior Man, but have been recommended that. So definitely going to put it on my list for sure.
Awesome.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Ooh, any superpower, man. All my adventure sports are coming to mind, but that'll be a physical thing. God, I feel like I have it, and it's called kindness. And it's, it's just what I think kindness, it's not just being nice, but kindness is the superpower that if I could just like send that out and like have it and infect people, I would take that as my superpower.
Awesome. I love that so much. And what's the best way for people to get a hold of you and learn more?
Our main website, simplerealwealth.com, is definitely the easiest. And then just my last name, fettke.com, is more like my personal. And then it's just FETTKE. And then I'm on Instagram at Rich Fettke.
Awesome. We'll link that in the show notes. Rich, thank you so much. So grateful for your time and
thank you.
All of your insight.
Awesome. Thanks. It was fun.
Absolutely. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. Listen, I know it's cliche and you hear it all the time, but please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video is coming out. Even though this is technically a daily podcast, you know it's coming out the next day. We have a ton of content coming your way. So please like and subscribe. It helps a ton. Leave comments. Would love to know what you guys think. And we will see you on the next one. Thanks so much.